I'm going to go over some map strategy. This is going to be flanking tactics. I'm going to go through every map and I'm going to tell you different tactics that I came up with that you can play that you're not going to see other people playing. So for example, and this is not going to be in my replays. The reason why is because sometimes I lose the replays because, as they release a new version of the software, it doesn't play the previous version. And so I lost a lot of great games. And for large numbers of reasons, I don't have replays of all this. But from here, you play with a light tank. You start at the spawn over here. You rush down to this position that I'm pointing on the map on Abbey, and you can spot the tanks that cross over this gap, and you can shoot at them. So I have a game where I rushed out to this position. It's probably in my account. And I spotted a T-95 as he was going across, and my ally had gone into the Abbey, went to this position, and he sniped that tank, and he did a lot of damage against it. So that's an example of the position. I've been exploring, like running through here, and the good thing about this is almost nobody ever spots you here. You can go here and no one will ever see you because nobody plays this except for in the very low tiers. In like tier 5 or something, or 7 or 8, you'll never see people playing over here. So I've been exploring going through here to see if there's a spot where you can spot the tanks over here and ambush them as they go across. However, you often will encounter enemy tanks that are going through this town. And likewise, I've been over here. I tried some positions over here. There were bushes and a little hill where you can spot the tanks that cross this gap, but it's really difficult. So let's move on to Cliff. So with Cliff, what I do, you can see me do it often in the replays, I go right to the center, spot the tanks, and ambush them as they cross over here. And the other thing that I do, if the enemy doesn't play in this position, I come around this way and I would go up to here where I'm pointing on the minimap, spot the backfield, let my allies kill them, go over the side, run to the back, shoot them in the back, shoot them in the back. And if you watch my replays, you'd know I have multiple games where I do this tactic. And many of the games we win. We win very easily. It'll be a stalemate until I penetrate and get in the back. You can also come around the side over here and then come up over here and shoot the heavy tanks in the back. It's another strategy you can use. This one I really haven't played very many games. With Ensk, what I do is I come through the rails. Let's say I'm playing on the south. I'll come through the rails, go up to here, and then I'll pop out over here and hit the enemy tanks in the back. And I've played this game many times, or I do it through these rails and I shoot through here. People know about going through here. I see people do it often, even though I was one of the innovators on this technique. And I have many games in my channel where I do this. I know all the positions. Most people only play a few. But if you do it this way, I almost never see anybody go up this way. You might encounter enemy tanks. However, if you do it with a tank that has good frontal armor like a Mutant or a T-95, it's going to be a really easy maneuver. Once you get to this position is when you really got to worry about fighting or taking damage. But the good thing is, all the time that you're here, you can spot so many tanks. You can proximity spot, which means they cannot hide, or you can spot tanks in the backfield. You can hit tanks in the rear. That's the reason why I play this. I don't play it because it's the way to get the most damage or the way to get the most kills. I play it because it's fun and challenging. That's the only reason why I do it. Now with Fisherman's Bay, I usually rush out. If I'm playing over here, I'll try to rush to this position so I can be really close and spot anybody. If you try to spot from back here, you can't spot those tanks. Now, you might have seen the games when I play in the north where I come over here and I run in circles and I spot everybody in the backfield. That's another technique that I use. Other people do know this technique, but I did it a long time ago. The other thing I try to do is I try to go through the town, come around here, get behind the enemy and shoot them from behind, or come through here and shoot them from behind. It works well in lower tiers like tier 7. But now almost all of my games, I play a lot of tier 10. It's more difficult because in tier 10, people are afraid to go across this way. They go along the red line. So you're coming this way along the red line. You will encounter a lot of tanks back here. So it's really difficult in the higher tiers. There are games that I show. If you look at my older games, you might see it. With fjords, come through here, run through the town, run down the peninsula, kill the SPGs. I have a game where I had games a long time ago, could have been years ago, where I showed how I did it. However, I can't find them. I don't know where they are. I'm going to go through all of my videos and I'm going to find every game and I'm going to link to all of them so you can see. When you do this maneuver, you come through here, run through the town. There's usually a tank destroyer right here. He's usually got a big gun. And what you have to do, the first time I did it, I didn't know what to do. I show the replay because it might be 6 months before I try again. Everybody says, you suck. So now I know what to do. You go there, you see the tank, you either push him in the water immediately or you run down here and kill the SPG. And then he's in a tough position because you have the advantage if you're over here and you've got all these hills because they have these crappy tank destroyers. With highway, if I start over here, I run to the bridge, go down the river, go through here, climb up this hill, you got open shots on the SPG. However, there's a lot of cowardly unicums and stat patters. They sit up over here because they're stat patters. You know, unicums, they don't like to be up in the front where someone might shoot at them. They like to snipe and have their enemies do all the difficult work. So you got to be careful when you come up here. But I've had lots of games where I came up here, there's nobody here, and I kill the SPG, and that's it. To go to the north, what you got to do is you have to come over here, go through the trees, and go up here. But there's a lot of people that sit up on this hill. But if you make it to here and cross over, you got open shots on the SPG. And the slow heavy tanks can't come back and do anything about it. So if the enemy comes to town with slow heavy tanks, you can pull that off. Himmelsdorf, what I do is, you'll see this in my channel, I run to this position and I spot the SPGs, and as they're running through here, I move to the next position, I shoot them through here, and as they move through here, I shoot them through here, and I have games where I've killed the SPG at the beginning of the game before they can get even their gun loaded the first time. I do have a game where I drove through here, went around the back, came over here and flanked the enemy from behind. I've done it before. You can see that there's a replay. It's a really old one from like 5 or 6 years ago. And I did it just for fun. Wait till we get to Ruinberg. You're going to hear some crazy stories when we get to Ruinberg. Unbelievable stories. You're going to love the fact that you've gotten to the Ruinberg point. I've tried all sorts of crazy ways to scout this out. Like you run through and scout across, and I know how to spot the tanks, but there's little strategic value, which means that as a light tank player, you're going to have low win rates on city maps if you don't know how to do damage and stuff. And you know what? I watch other people play, and their strategy is to wait until the end of the game. Anybody could do that, but at the beginning of the game, your strategy is to not play. I mean, okay, so Karelia. What I do is I drive through here, go through the trees, go to D4, spot them, clean it up, or do the same on the other side. I did this years ago. Before you'd see the popular streamers do it, I was doing it. I thought I was the only one doing it because I never saw anybody else doing it, which is why I have a video that goes into great detail about how to do it and how I discovered it. And I watch the game, I see other people not doing it, so I knew other people were not doing it. Now everybody does it all the time. So the other strategy I use is I start from here and I go out to here and I snipe that way and snipe that way. And I've had a lot of good games doing it, and I never see anybody doing it. I have an ambush position where I run out to here, spot the tanks as they cross here at the start of the game. It's hit or miss because a lot of your allies are not setting up ambush positions. Over here, it's harder because there's a hill and they just go behind the hill. If you start from here, you can rush out to here and spot the tanks going this way. But like I said, you'll spot them and your allies won't shoot at them because they're never in the right position. And if you fire at them, you're going to get spotted. But that's some of the strategies I use. Of course, there's going to be more. Over here, what I do is I run out to this position, spot these. But please don't do. Okay, shoot. We're going to go back to Lakeville. If you look at my old videos, I used to rush out to here, spot the enemy tanks over here, and my allies would bombard them. I was one of the first people to do this. The reason why I have a video on this channel that shows how to do it is because I never saw anybody do it before. And it had such an impact on the game that they changed the terrain so that there's a hill over here so that it's harder to do that. Now what I do is I rush out to this location. People that try to spot from the road are not playing properly. Anybody who's a spotter that tells you spot to come down, that heads for this road, doesn't know the best strategy on this map. The best way to do it is to come around this way. You can spot way more tanks. They'll all be spotted, and you can spot up here. That's the way to do it, and you can do it from the north also. And I have other strategies. Let's move on. Live oaks. What I usually do is go to this position through this diagonal, and I ambush the tanks through the diagonal. When I play from here, I used to go to this corner and ambush them as they cross the street, but then I found the strategy where you could go here and you can ambush them as they cross over here. I used to play from here, but from this position you can spot them, but you can't shoot. From this position, you can spot them and shoot. And from this position, you can spot these guys and shoot. So that's how I moved from spotting to the ambush position. I saw a guy who went somehow through here at the start of the game, went back and killed the SPG at the start of the game. He was on the enemy team. My team had gone to town. Malinovka, if you know that I spot from here, people that are spotting from over, noobs spot from over here, super unicum spot from over here, and people who know how to play spot from over here. People who spot over here are not spotting in the best position. I've done a lot of analysis on this. I'm probably the only player I ever see spotting from the location I'm pointing, and I've played lots of games, and I'm a top spotter in this game. I've got top spotting stats. This is the position to play. People that are doing it from over here are doing a crappy job. I used to play from over here or try to go deeper than the halfway point, but this one gives you better coverage. From here, you can't spot over here, but from here, you can spot everything. Binds, I go to this position and hit from the rear, and this is what I do. If I'm from the south, I come over here, I advance to here, I hit the enemy from the rear. If you watch my replays, you'll see me doing it. If I'm from the north, I come over here, check to see if anybody crosses over. If they don't, I come down to here. We hit these guys in the rear until they're dead, and then I cross over and I climb through here and then hit the SPG. And again, I'm always in the front. My allies are in the back. I always let my allies do the damage and get the kills. That's why I'm a low damage player and a low kill player, because that's teamwork. It's the right strategy. Minsk, I really don't know what to do, but I did find that one where you can advance along these trees. If you're in the south, you go through the tunnel, advance through these trees. You could go all the way deep into the enemy territory without being spotted. I have a replay that shows how to do it, and I actually did a lot of damage and a lot of... I had a good game. I had high stats in that game. With Mountain Pass, what I used to do is I would go into the middle and sit here I would go, do some spotting, but then I would sit here in the middle, and when the enemy tries to cross over here, I would hit them from the side. But I don't do it anymore because of the wheelies. What happens now is we got lots of tanks that play up on this hill. So if they're up here on this hill, you really can't take this middle position anymore. You can only take it if your team controls this hill. So that's one way that the meta changed. Morovanka. What I used to do, when this used to be flat and it was all trees, I was the only one who used to play in the forest because I was a really good player. I used to go and spot in the forest, and my allies would be sniping like crazy. It took a while to learn how to do it, but I learned how to do it, and I got to be really good at it. Then they added all the hills. Now it's not challenging anymore. Now everybody can go into the forest. With this map, I go through the town, and usually I scout out, and then I run back, and I have a game where I go through the town, spot a T-95, my SPG hits it and takes it out of the game in one shot. But the problem with that is you don't get a lot of damage spotting at the beginning of the game, but I learned how to do it. So now I'm doing ambushing. There's a video in my channel where I rush out to here, spot the heavy tanks, shoot at them, do the damage, and then you just run away and that's it. And you've got the first shot in the game and you've done damage to a tank at the beginning of the game and he goes into battle with damage already. So it takes time to go through all the different locations in the town, go through all the buildings to find the bush where you can see the enemy, fire the gun without being spotted, be able to get away even if you have a slow tank, and retreat, and know what to do when the fast scouts are coming after you. It takes months to figure that out because you don't get to play the same map over and over and over again with the same tank over and over and over again. You don't have that. So it could take me 6 months to a year to master one of those positions. With Overlord, I rush over here, spot anybody, snipe at them, run away. Or I go over here and I run around from behind, shoot the enemy tanks from behind, and then come back to my side. If you watch my replays, you'll see me doing that. The other strategy I do is I come over here along the red line, go all the way to this back corner, come across this way behind the enemy territory. However, you know, there's so many people that play over here nowadays. It used to be that the heavy tanks would always be fighting up over here and over here, but I guess the meta has changed. The heavy tanks don't like to play over here because of all the distant snipers. They just won't show up. So there's more of a position over here where there's no snipers. If the other thing that I do is I come over here, go along the red light. There's a video in my account where I do it, and as my team is trying to advance, I'm sniping them. I give them sniper support without being spotted. And if you're over here and you're on the enemy team and I'm sniping from here and I've got a ship to hide behind, you're never going to make it. You've got to go all the way back here in reverse. So that's a great strategy. With Paris, if I'm playing over here, I come over here and I rush all the way out this far on the map. You look on my replays, you'll see me do it. If I'm playing from over here, I rush out over here and I go this far to these bushes. The other thing I try to do is at the beginning of the game, I try to take up a spotting position over here where I can spot these tanks, and now I will also snipe at them and then run away. But it's very difficult now because a lot of people play in this position. When the map first came out, people were afraid to play in this position. So that's one of the ways that you have to adjust. But I'm the one who's always trying to get around and come to the center and come around and get behind the enemy. For example, there's a game where I go over the bridge, come over here, get behind the enemy, and shoot them from behind. And I kill 2 tanks. And it was with an ELC Even 90, which is one of the worst tanks in the game. With this, I was always trying to go through the center and get behind the tanks, but I really didn't. This is one of the somewhat newer maps. I didn't have enough crazy good strategies on that map. With this map, I often go to the town, try to find an ambush position where I can spot these tanks, snipe at them and run, or I come from the north into the town, ambush the tanks as they cross over here, and then run. When I start from the south and come over here and set up my ambush position, I have lots of games where these enemies never make it to that hill. If my allies take up supporting sniping positions, then we will win easily. When I ambush from here shooting the tanks coming over here, they'll make it to the hill, but they won't have their full hit points. There's another tactic that I use. I start from the north, come over here to the town, go over the side here into the water, spot these tanks on the hill. My allies shoot at them, but the problem is you can't get out of here. You can't reverse and get out. So it works in the lower tiers, but in a tier 10 game, I often have difficulty. The players come after me, and unless you have high pen rounds and good armor, you're going to have a good fight. If you do it right, you've got easy shots on SPG, on the campers who park here in the back, etc. Province, this is a weird strategy. You can't do it anymore. Most people go up these roads, but Between here and here, there's a hill, and between here and here, there's a hill. You can actually climb this hill, and then you can get behind the enemy this way or behind the enemy that way. You could climb this hill, get behind the enemy this way, get behind the enemy that way. I don't know if I have any replays that show it, but it's just another strategy only I did and no one else did it. With Redshire, I start here, come to the hill over here, spot the heavies as they cross here, ambush them. Done it so many times. From the south, I come to this position, spot the heavies as they cross here, ambush them that way. But you cannot do that anymore because they changed the hills and they added lots of bushes, so you can no longer spot from here through here. But you can still do the ambush position where you come here, spot the heavies, ambush them, so when they get here, they've already taken damage. And not only that, you can usually get 2 or 3 heavies as they cross. And I have replays with an autoloader where I've done a lot of damage. I've done thousands of damage at the start of the game. The other thing that I do is I run up here, take a spotting bush, spot the enemy as they cross over here, ambush them, retreat. Back in the old days, we didn't have this position here and this position here. So what I used to do is I used to come along the bottom, go up the side over here, and you could make it to the SPGs without being spotted. But then they changed it, so now actually this is the old map. You can see that there's all trees over here, and it's a lower area. So you used to be able to just cross over here, get to the SPGs, easy game. The other thing that I did, before they didn't have the heavy tank position, people would come over here and snipe, and people would come over here and snipe. I would cross over, run circles with a regular tank, spot all these guys, not shoot, not do any damage or kills. They would all die. You can still do it now, but the problem is you don't have as many tanks taking up these positions because everybody goes over here now or over here. It's a lot different. With Ruinberg, I actually had a game where there were 2 enemy tanks where I'm pointing on the mini-map. I came around here, went behind them, and I literally got right next to them so that I was practically touching them, shot the guy 5 times in the side until he died. There was an ally next to him. I shot him once. He saw me shooting at him, and he started reversing. I got like 6 shots in, parked right next to them. There's another game where there were 3 tanks where I'm pointing on the mini-map. They were on the north, I was on the south. I came over here. I literally drove through here, went past them, driving right next to them, got behind them, turned my gun around, and started shooting them in the back. That's how crazy it was. It was a very low tier game. It had to have been tier 2 because there was a T-18, which you know is an op tank that people would get 15 kills, and they pulled it from the game. And I didn't see, he was unspotted, so I didn't see him, so he killed me. With Serene Coast from the south, I go to here, spot the heavies over here and ambush them, or I start from here, go to here, spot the heavies over here, ambush them. I never see other players do that. Or another strategy I would do is I would advance along the water here and get behind the heavies, but it's a lot more difficult in the higher tiers. Over here, you got to, I used to be the only one that played in the lower level. Now, obviously, everybody does, but what you can do is you can advance through here and get behind the enemy and shoot them in the back. If you watch my replays, you'll see a game where I did it, but because I hadn't done it in years, I did help my team because the enemy had to retreat, and they were better equipped than I was, and I was playing a wheeled vehicle. I didn't have any experience with wheeled vehicles, but I only did that once. Once I master that position, I'm going to have great games in that position. Siegfried Line, if you start over here, try to make it out to here, go around, shoot the enemy from the rear. You can't really do it from the north. If you play on this side, I come out over here, spot the enemy tanks in the beginning, snipe at them. Either I come down this diagonal, snipe at them with a slow heavy tank and then retreat, or I come out over here, ambush them, make it down to here. Once you win over here, you snipe at the tanks this way. But now everybody's doing that, so I picked positions over here. And if you watch my gameplay, you'll see me playing those positions, sniping at the tanks, trying to cross over here, and they can't do it. If the enemy loses its snipers in the field, I rush to the back, shoot at them from the rear. Wait until we get to Pearl River. I've got an old replay from years ago where you see me run behind the enemy, and the enemy panics so much that one of the enemy tanks, there were 4 of them, literally dives off the side of the cliff. He had to dive off of 2 cliffs, and he crashed and died. With steps, what I do is I go up through the middle and then flank around this way or flank around this way or kill the SPG. Everybody does it now, but I pioneered this. I have videos from years ago showing my progression from when I was first learning. It took me a year to figure out how to do it because you have to know every possibility of what might happen. If there's enemy tanks there, if there's not, if you have sniper support, if you don't, if they come after you, where do you hide? I had to learn all those different positions and all those different conditions, and it took a lot of games to learn how to do all those things. With Studzianki, I usually play here in this ditch in the middle, but I either snipe from here to the south or snipe from here to the north, one of the two. With Tundra, if I'm here, I go over here, spot the tanks that cross over and ambush them at the start of the game. Or I do it from here, I look at who's crossing over here and ambush them, or I come to the rails, spot who crosses the rail and ambush them. You can't really do it from the north pointing to the south. And a lot of times I hang out in this town and I pay attention to what's going on with the enemy. And if I think I can sneak around the heavy tanks and ambush them from behind, I'll do that. With Westfield, I usually play over here. I come over here and spot, and I snipe across this way. And my allies will snipe whoever I spot in the town. That's one of my strategies, and I look for an opportunity to run at the SPGs. Okay, Wide Park. Wide Park, I usually try to run up through these rails to get behind the enemy, or that's how you do it to advance on the northern team. On the southern, if you're advancing on the southern team, you want to go through as many buildings as possible. Not this way because there's lots of tanks over here. So you want to head for the middle here. You see how there's the tanks over here in this building and these buildings and these buildings. So that's where you want to run through this concentration of buildings. Get to the rear and you're safest. You're going to have the campers in the back, but that's how you penetrate this map. With this one, I go through the middle and snipe this way, usually, but they changed the map now, so you can't do it anymore. Or I would start from the south and go to this position. Most people, because they're unicum, would play on the other side of the hill, but I played on the more dangerous side. And if you watch me play, you'll see that over time, first I did it for spotting, then I learned to ambush these tanks, and I learned how to do it. If they came after me, they would die. Even though I'm in this position, so many tanks came after me that just died, even though I was on the southern team, because I knew how to play and my team would back me up. When I played the north, I would sneak down to here, spot the tanks coming across here and ambush them as they crossed over without being spotted, because I learned how to shoot at tanks without being spotted, even if you're not behind a bush. Ask how many unicums know how to do that. I know how to do it. If you watch my videos, you'll learn how to do it. You can shoot at tanks and damage them within spotting range without being behind a bush, without getting spotted. And I did it with tanks like the Type 4 Heavy and the Type 5 Heavy. My Mannerheim line, I always go through the center. What I do from the south is I go through here. I used to take up this position, drive through here, come all the way up to here. I'm on the southern team and I go up to here, come up here, flank these guys from behind, which draws them away from my team, or go after the SPGs. I usually flank these guys from behind. That's my strategy. Or from the northern team, I come over here and come this way to this position. Remember, I'm playing on the northern team. Spot these tanks, get these guys killed off, and these guys killed off. But you can't really do it anymore because they changed the map so that if you get spotted over here, you're going to be dead. There's no place to hide. It used to be you could dive over the side into the water without falling into the water and climb back out. With Glacier, I try to go through these trees over here to snipe at these guys from behind. I tried to go through these buildings to snipe at them from behind, but I have high failure rate trying to do that. With Kharkov, what I would do is try to make it to these circles and shoot all the way through here or all the way through here at any tank that tried to advance. But guess what? Wargaming doesn't like that. They reworked Kharkov. One of the reasons why is they complained that tanks were sniping through these areas. So they closed it off more because it's a heavy tank meta now. But that was my Kharkov. The other way I did was I would go to the corner, drive down to this hill over here, and if there's nobody here, keep on advancing and kill the SPG. Do you see other people? Do you see all the other big streamers doing that? I don't think you do, but I do that. I'm going to find all of my replays where I do that, and I'm going to make sure that they're all linked in a place where everybody can see them. With Airfield, if you come up to the middle hill, you can spot these tanks and ambush them, take shots at them as they cross over. But it's a high risk rate because everybody rushes the middle at the beginning. And the Unigums play the obvious positions. I play the more obscure ones. And from the east, if you come over here to try to ambush these tanks, you can do it, but it's a lot more difficult. With El Haluf, got lots of videos. At the start of the game, I run across, climb this hill, no matter what's going on, shoot at these tanks over here, spot these guys. From the other side, I come over here, run across, repeat, same thing. The other strategy I would do, you see these two rocks, come into here, sneak across, get behind the heavy tanks, come into here, sneak across, get behind the heavy tanks. Ghost Town, I used to get in the middle and just dominate in the middle, but they changed the map. It's nowhere the same that it used to be. With Sand River, what I do is I go through these buildings over here and I snipe at the tanks. I got so many replays where I do that. I used to go very far, but they're always changing the map. So, you have to relearn, like your favorite bush might be gone. It's really difficult now. Before it was easier. Or I come over from this side and I come over here and I get into these and I hit the flank of the tanks. There's another strategy. When it used to be assault defend, I used to come to this position that I'm pointing to, and the enemy would try to cross over here. Let's see if we can see a bigger map. The enemy, when they would assault, would try to cross through here, so I would be sitting over here and I would snipe them as they cross over. And like I said, I discovered it on my own. After a while, people learned the position, but I was one of the first people that did it. I didn't learn it from seeing other people do it. It was just a coincidence that I discovered it. Okay, they assault coming this way. I used to play right here where I'm pointing on the mini-map. I probably have a video on my account where I do it. Basically what you do, you would spawn over here, you would make a beeline as fast as you can, hit that rock, hide in the bush, you'd spot everybody as they came south. And they would try to come around here and be over here being spotted the whole time, even when they're over here. And I would play over here shooting this way as they're trying to assault. And when I would be on the assaulting team, I would come over here and the defending team would be over here. There's a game that Quickie Baby plays where he said this was his favorite position, where he's from the north going to the south and he's playing over here. I used to do the same thing. We play on different servers. So we discovered it separately. There's a game where I came over here and I sat in this bush right here and I spotted like 14 tanks on the enemy team and we won like 15-0 and they were spotted the whole game and they were all dying. Like every time the RD reloaded, somebody was dying. It is in my YouTube account. Okay, for port, this was my favorite map. What I would do, start over here, come down to this position. There's a wall and a bridge. I would knock the wall down. The enemy would cross over here to go to this position. After they cross over, I would go through here into here, and all the SPGs would be undefended. I would kill all the SPGs, and then I would go up this way, and I would shoot at these heavy tanks from behind. So that was a strategy that I used on port. From the south, you can't do it. From the south, you had to kind of run through these train tracks, but there was always a bunch of campers back there. Okay. That was port. Let's see. Port. Did Overlord, Erlenberg, El Halouf. That's Sand River. Klondike. Klondike, I never really came up with a strategy, but what I was trying to do was come through this area. The best strategy that I came up with that was a killer strategy that, ask the Unicums if they know the strategy, was to come over here in the middle. Everybody says, that's a stupid place. That's a killing zone. No, it isn't. If you play in this position in the water, you can shoot at the enemy tanks that are over here, and you can shoot at the enemy tanks over here. What the enemy does is they come over here and they sit in the water, they go up the hill to fire and down to reload. But if you're over here, you come up over here and you hit them with your autoloader, you unleash your rounds, you run and hide, or you do it from here, you go over here, hit them, and then you run and hide when you're done firing. That is a position on Klondike. I've never seen anybody else play it, but that's what I would play. With Nebelberg, I have an ambush position on Nebelberg. I believe it's in my account. You start over here, you go over here to where I'm pointing on the mini-map. You spot the tanks that are crossing over here on the way to battle, and you shoot at them and do damage. I have a video where I play a bat chat where I do that. And not only that, but the enemy that goes over here, I was shooting them over here and damaging them also. You can also come to a position which I believe is right here, spot through the town, and you can spot the enemy tanks over here that are heading to town, and you can ambush them that way. I've tried positions over here in the houses and in the bushes, but it was very dangerous because if you get spotted, every time I tried to run away, I would get killed, and every time I got spotted, I would end up in all sorts of crossfire. So what I did over here is you run to this corner and snipe. But I haven't played Grand Battles in such a long time. It's probably been a year. Berlin I never played on. Dragon Ridge, I never played a real game on Dragon Ridge. Hidden Village. This was great. I would come up over here to this middle area. Nobody would play over here. Everybody was always back a little bit more. There's a lot of trees. Knock the trees down. You spot the enemy. You withdraw and snipe at them, and you would not get spotted unless the enemy advances. Or I would take up positions here or in these openings where these roads cross. You're safe. The enemy won't see you, but you can snipe into town and hit all the enemy tanks in town. So these were great sniping positions. It took me a long time to learn that. With Komarin, I would sit at the bridge and snipe this way or snipe that way. I was always sniping away from the center. I had positions that I played where I would snipe into the center also. It was hard to remember. Mittengard, I would try to come around this way, and hit the enemy from behind. But Mittengard was very fierce battles. With Northwest, I would just try to run up through here and work my way through or come through here. That's nothing special about that. Never found a secret position or magical strategy on Northwest. But what I would do is I would pick a road and go down as fast as I can and see if the enemy left it open. If they did, I would keep on going. If they didn't, you just retreat and take another path. With Pearl River, if you start in the north, you can come down to these islands and hide in these trees, and everybody was afraid to go here, so I was sniping at tanks all over the place. Or I would play in the houses where also nobody would go. You can advance through the houses and snipe at tanks, and if they spot you, you just run away through the houses. So I have a game on my account which is amazing. I'm in these bushes. The enemy spawn is right here. And the enemy would go up an area here and up over here, and I would shoot them in the rear over here and over here, and the enemy would go into a panic. And there's one game where the enemy was in such a panic that he dove over the side, and I still continued to shoot at him, so he dove over again and crashed. Okay, so remember, I would start here. This is the south spawn. I would come all the way down to look at the position I'm pointing to, right next to the spawn, and shoot at these tanks from the rear. You'd never see anybody else. All those #1 players have no clue about this position. I've never seen anybody play this position, and it's a very dangerous position, but it's a double bush. There's a bush in front, there's a bush behind. These tanks are spotted because they're shooting at your allies, and you just shoot through and hit them in the rear, and you're flanking them. That's one of the cruelest things I ever did to anybody in this game. With the bridge, I would run over here, go into the water, come through the river, climb up over here, and hit the tanks from behind and shoot at the spawn. Never saw anybody else do it. I actually have a game where I did it, and one of my allies came with me, but because he didn't know how to do it, he just sat in the river. He didn't know what to do. I was going out shooting until I died. He just sat there. I died, and I don't know what he did. Maybe he retreated. Sacred Valley. I would run from the north spawn to this location. You can spot the heavies going up to here and ambush them. I know I have replays on my account. Or I would come to this location, spot the heavies going this way, and ambush them. Or I would go to this location, spot the tanks going this way and ambush them. Or I would go to, I would ambush them from here to here, then work my way to here, ambush the tanks by firing this way, the enemy that was trying to go around this way. Then I would work my way not through this area, but on the edge over here, go into here, spot the SPGs. And this was when I was a new player. I probably had a couple thousand battles, and I was able to do these strategies. I was very disappointed when they got rid of this map, and I have many replays showing these games. I know I had okay, I would do another thing where I would come through here, come over here, climb this hill, and hit these tanks from behind. So they would get stuck. Anybody from here that went over here would get flanked. They would have to go up my allies. They would have to go up against my allies in the front and me from the rear. I probably have replays showing that. And people call me a bad player. Fuck them. They can go fuck themselves. Fuck all of them. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. With Severgorsk, I would go through the river. This was easy. You start over here, you drive all the way through this dry riverbed, and you show up behind the enemy. It's too bad they got rid of this. So you would show up behind the enemy. They're climbing this hill. I guess you would have to come around here. You get behind the enemy. That you got, and then they're in a crossfire. They got enemy in front of them, enemy behind them. With South Coast, I used to run up the beach, come this way, come across, kill the SPG. If the enemy came this way, I would come up this way and try to go this way and across. But they know you're coming, so you have to know the way out. I used to play in the town. Nobody played in the town. I hope I can find replays. Very dangerous, but I play the tough positions. Or I would start from the north, come over here, get really close to the enemy, spot them until my allies killed them, do the same from the south. Stalingrad, I used to wait until the enemy started taking up positions, and then I would just drive through the center and get behind them and flank them. I have games where I did that. Or you go up along the water, come over here from behind, hit them from behind. You know, that's basically what it was. With Swamp, you start at your spawn, you go to this position, your allies over here snipe to support you, and you snipe at the tanks this way. Or you start over here, and you go into this position. No, into like these rocks or something, you spot these tanks and you shoot this way and ambush them as they're going into here. And then you come around and you hit them from the rear. Or you go over here and you come over to here and you shoot at them from the rear while your allies are shooting at them this way. There is a replay where I do it over here where I have a Foch and I'm hitting the tanks from behind, and Des Games featured a video about a month later with a Foch doing the same exact thing. Same position, shooting the enemy from behind, everybody says, hey, great game, Des Games. It wasn't him playing, it was somebody else playing, but I had been doing it for probably a year. When I showed it in my channel, it wasn't the first time I had done it. I had done it so many times. That's why I knew the position. That's why I knew where to aim. That's why I did lots of damage. That's why I knew what to do when I got spotted. That's why I knew to keep an eye on my snipers to make sure I had support. That's why I knew what to do if the enemy came from me from behind, because I had played it many times. Des Games introduced it. I had already mastered the position. I didn't get any credit. With Windstorm, if I played over here, I would run, everybody goes around this way to this part. Some people go this way. I would take the part in between where everybody was afraid to go. It's very difficult driving because if you make a mistake, you fall in the water. And then I would pop out right over here and I would spot all these tanks, shoot at them, and run. For the other spawn, you have to come to like this position, I think. It's very difficult driving, and you can spot some of the tanks. It was really hard to do. But I think what I would try to do was cross over here, and I remember getting into this area and shooting the enemy from behind. Windstorm was very difficult to flank because of the small width of the roads that you had to go through and the high risk of just falling off into the water. And I have replays showing strategies like that. This is Berlin, never played. Okay, so that's all the maps on this page. I know that there's more. Those are my strategies. I am going to make a web page that will have links to all the strategies I just showed you. When I say I go and I get behind the enemy and shoot them from the rear, I'm going to show you replays where I did it. And some of them are going to be 4 or 5 years old. And you can comment all you want. I'm a sucky player. I don't care. I don't see you playing games like this. If you look through my replays, you'll see the gameplay. Okay, if you have any questions or comments, please post below.